Hey, there's Brenda. What's going on, Brenda?
Okie dokie. Can you hear me?
Yes, really well.
Okay, that's good.
So if you had any, counter rebuttals or arguments, go ahead. I mean, I'm here to listen to them, and we'll discuss them.
Well, you haven't actually made an argument. You just make all you have done is claim things, and you just mock and ridicule, and that's not an argument.
I mean, but I do make arguments because you wouldn't even be saying you wouldn't be in here in the first place if I wasn't arguing or making an argument.
That's not true.
So you just came in here for the hell of it, or
The fact that I'm in here doesn't mean that you made an argument.
so who? Okay, let's
You-
say. Okay, but okay, that's your opinion. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
give you that. I'll give you that. So that's your
yeah.
opinion. That's fine.
Do you know what an argument is?
Sure, yeah.
What is it?
It is something that you are um, that it's an exchange or diversion of opposite of views. So you're just showing a viewpoint or
No,
trying to persuade a
that's not
viewpoint.
an argument. That's not an argument. An opinion is not an argument.
Well, the fact you're saying it's mine is an opinion is an opinion itself. So you have to.
Yes, that's right. That's an opinion, but it's not an argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like just
Right.
because you say it's not an argument doesn't make it's not an argument. Do you
Well,
have an
you don't know.
argument?
You don't know what an argument is. That's the point.
I
So it's
just yeah,
difficult. It's difficult to talk to somebody about philosophy when they don't have the slightest clue what they're talking about.
I just defined it for you even from
Uh,
a dictionary.
what was your definition of an argument then?
An exchange or diverging of opposite of views, typical, and then it's a viewpoint. It's different view trying to persuade someone of a different viewpoint.
Yeah, yeah. Two different people. So if I get in an argument with somebody over whether or not I get the last piece of pie, you know, that's okay. That's an argument, but that's not what we're talking about here in philosophy. In philosophy, an argument is right a series of premises that lead to a conclusion,
Yeah,
and all you do is say stuff, and then you expect it to be true because you said it.
I gave
And
premises and conclusions. I gave plenty of those.
okay, what are your premises?
Premise one that I was bringing up earlier with if you're going to say morals are they cannot be grounded in God, then you have to say that they're involuntary. That'd be my first premise.
That's a claim. What do you mean? What do you mean morals have to be involuntary? What on earth does that even mean?
The moral, okay, we're talking. This is what tonight was about: is moral oughts.
Right?
The moral oughts cannot be grounded in anything that is involuntary, but you would have to concede that is the case.
What does it mean to even say that moral oughts have to be grounded in something involuntary? What
No,
does that
I didn't. No,
mean?
I'm saying they can't be involuntary. That means that moral oughts
So the
are
moral oughts have to be
voluntary.
so moral oughts have to be voluntary. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So how does that? So it's up to me whether or not I ought to do something.
Exactly. And this brings me
And
another point
yeah,
I brought up.
yeah. That's and what do you think that is? What do you think that shows?
It shows a endowment or ability to deliberate what is right and wrong. The what is morally what ought to be morally right and wrong.
Well, if it's up to me, then that's subjective morality. You believe in subjective morality.
No, we're not talking about whether it's subjective or not. We're talking about the ability to deliberate and
But
recognize.
you said whether or not I do something is or ought to do something is up to
The
me, right?
no, you have to have the ability in the first place to even have to do that.
Well, I don't know what that means
You have to be endowed with that ability
to
to
do.
introspect within yourself.
Oh, you have to have a certain level of consciousness,
I wouldn't
right?
even,
So so
or
so
yeah,
a
you
so
could
a
call it
cat.
that moral consciousness, sure, or
So
conscience.
so a a dog or a cat, they're not moral beings because they don't have the ability to deliberate. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Right. But that's not what morality is. That's simply a condition that you're placing on what is necessary for morality is the ability to consider, right, whether or not you ought to do something. That's fine. I can agree with that. That
All
that
right.
that there's a necessary precondition to being a moral agent is the ability to um, think and introspect and consider um, what your options are and whether or not you should do this or do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not that doesn't have anything to do with morality. That's just a condition for it. What do you
Right.
think morality is?
It is a principle. And this is what I was saying before. We can go to the nature ontology of principles. You're not going to find a principle under a telescope, microscope, or in a test tube.
Right.
So they're
Principles are
immaterial.
Principles are beliefs. People have beliefs. Right. That's what a principle is.
Well,
right?
no, I would say they're conceptual. They're not really. You can't just think a principle into existence. So they're independent
Why
of
not?
thinking. Because they're not contingent on human thinking.
How do you know that?
Principles are right or wrong without human thinking.
How do you know that?
Because they have an epistemology attached to it. That's why.
Epistemology, those are more beliefs by people. This is just stuff that people think of. These are thoughts that people have. A principle is just an idea, a belief that somebody has that a principle. Let me think of a really simple one. Is when I'm driving in my car and I want to make a right-hand turn, I should signal to turn right. Right? That's a principle. Or another principle might be I'm driving in my car.
Yeah.
I should travel the speed limit. Right?
Right.
Right.
But the truth value is not contingent on human minds, though. That's what I'm trying to say. No.
It is.
It being true, if it's true that you should not murder, is not dependent on a human thought. That's not going to. That's arbitrary.
That's what murder means.
No, of course not. The truth value is not going to be affected by whether a human thinks it up or not. It's true regardless of that.
No, it doesn't, because
truth itself is irreducible. So
how do you know that?
Because truth itself demands something that is absolute. What
does that mean? What does it mean to say that truth demands something absolute? That's just gibberish.
No, because the epistemology that's attached to it makes it true. Can something be true and non-true at the same time?
I thought we were talking about ontology, not epistemology.
But but that they go hand in hand, though.
No, they actually don't. They're two different things.
Well, the nature. Okay, no, you're making this is a straw man argument. I'm explaining both sides.
Man. I'm making a distinction.
Because you're only covering one side of my argument. The ontology of ethical principles are immaterial. They're non-physical.
How do you know that? What's your argument for that? Because I don't agree. I don't agree that they're immaterial.
I explained that earlier. The scientific method. You're not going to find ethical principles in the scientific method. Show me in a microscope or telescope or something else, if you can extract it. Where can you extract ethical principles? You're not going to find it in physical processes.
Beliefs, ethical principles are beliefs, right?
Sure, but they're not
right.
Yeah, but they're not just based on beliefs. I mean, they're not contingent on beliefs.
They are beliefs, and beliefs are mental states, right?
Mental states, that's consciousness, not ethical principles.
Yeah.
So you're equivocating principles with consciousness.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I think that a principle...
You're using the word consciousness and equivocating it with something that is a principle, conceptual. Conceptions are not dependent on consciousness.
Concepts are not... concepts thoughts and ideas do not depend on the mind? Are you serious?
Conception, something. Okay, let me give you an example. Do you think the law of non-contradiction is contingent on a human mind?
What do you think it's just, look, that's just a claim. That's just a thought. That's just a belief that people have.
But
It's a proposition.
I'm talking about the epistemology of the principle itself, though. It is not dependent.
No, you're not. You're not talking about epistemology. You're talking about ontology. You don't know what you're talking about.
The
You're
law of
using
non-contradiction.
You're using big words that you've heard somebody say. You don't know what these words
No, I
mean.
think you're confusing. You're misrepresenting my arguments in the first place. You don't even understand what I'm trying to say. It's like it's an argument from incredulity at the very best.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying you're wrong because I'm incredulous. I'm saying you're wrong because what you're talking is incoherent.
But you haven't even represented my argument in the first place to show it is incoherent.
Fine. What is your argument?
Okay, I was explaining this over and over. Okay, the ontology of principles, ethical principles, you're not going to find them in the scientific method. Therefore, they are immaterial, non-physical, for number one. And then the truth value attached to ethical principles are irreducible. So therefore, they are not contingent or, they're not contingent on human minds or humans or arbitrariness.
How does it follow from your negative argument that you don't find principles in the scientific method, which is just gibberish? How does it follow from that there necessarily must be immaterial?
How is it gibberish when atheists would say the scientific method is how reality is determined? I mean, so how is that gibberish?
Nobody believes that.
Of course they do. It's scientific, methodological naturalists.
Just another thing you don't understand. Science doesn't determine what reality is. Science describes.
No, I said
reality.
The scientific method. I didn't say science. I said the scientific method.
It doesn't. Yeah, the scientific method or science does not determine.
Well, I don't believe that, but atheists have to believe that.
Atheists don't ever believe that. Nobody has ever argued that.
Yes, I can name one right now who does. Matt Dillahunty.
No, he doesn't believe that. I've listened to him many times. You don't understand anything of what you're talking about.
Then show that. Just stop claiming that.
Science describes reality. It doesn't
begging
determine.
The question. You're presupposing that science describes reality because science describes reality. That's circular.
I didn't say that. You did. You're strawmanning me.
Oh, so I'm straw. You just said it.
No, I didn't.
You just said science describes reality.
Yes.
That's what I just said. And
no,
you didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that. You said science describes reality, therefore science describes reality, and claimed that I made a circular argument, which I did not make. I did not make.
You didn't justify that claim in one iota. What did you justify that claim with?
Because if you look it up in any encyclopedia, anywhere in the description,
because Wikipedia says so, it means it.
In any encyclopedia,
that's still the same circular argument.
No, that's not a circular argument.
Because Wikipedia says it must be true. No, you need something else outside of an arbitrary art. It's purely arbitrary.
That's what definitions are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No.
What does the word red mean?
The law of non-contradiction, for instance, is not arbitrary.
What does the word red mean?
It's a color. It's a color in the spectrum.
But could it be any other word? How about
that?
rouge?
Makes my point. You said it's arbitrary.
Yes.
Can something be read and not read at the same time?
Language is arbitrary. The words that we use to describe things are arbitrary. Can something be read and not read at the same time? The words that we use to describe things are
all you're doing
arbitrary.
is just imposing sophistry. That's all you're trying to do.
That's not sophistry. It's how language works.
No, you're trying to circumvent what I'm trying to say. Can something be read and non-read at the same time? Just answer the
No,
question.
no,
There
it
you
can't
go.
be.
That proves my point. It's not arbitrary.
What are you talking about?
You said that you said that red would be arbitrary. The definition of red.
The word, the phonemes that come out of your mouth, the vocalization, the letters on the page are completely
Okay,
arbitrary
the epistemol. Okay,
as they're arbitrary as to the thing that they refer
okay.
to in the real world.
So anyone could say that red is not red then.
No, anybody can say, have any sequence of sounds or any sequence of any kind of symbols written on a piece of paper and can use those to indicate the color red. That's what I'm talking about.
So can something be red and non-red at the same time?
We're not talking about that.
But yes, we are talking about that because you said that the color red is arbitrary. I'm
Yes,
showing you it's not arbitrary
word.
because
The word red is arbitrary.
no,
Yes,
no
it
way,
is.
no.
Yes, it could have been anything. It could have been any sequence of symbols or any sequence of sounds like gazorp gazorp could have been red.
That's equivocation. You're just gonna
No,
say anything you want to make it red. That's not
That's
true.
how language works. People make sounds and they attribute them to things in the world. That's how language works.
That's irrelevant to what I'm saying, though. So I think your point is moot, even though whatever you're trying to argue that the word might be arbitrary, but I'm saying what's more important is the definition of red is not arbitrary. So does that make so what's more important, the meaning the definition of red or just the word red?
So we've kind of lost track of the conversation about morality and gotten off into semantics, which you don't understand that either. So
and those are just more assertions.
You have no idea what anything you're talking about. So
yeah,
the problem here is
with
morality. Morality is simply a set of principles, right, that people believe that they ought to follow. They are thoughts in people's heads. And I am a materialist. So I say that mental states are brain states, right? So they exist in people's heads. They don't exist in some spiritual ghost world.
No, I say that's self-defeating.
No, it's not.
It is self-defeating because I explained it would be involuntary. You have nothing that's voluntary.
What are you talking about? Voluntary. What
am I talking? I'm talking about the chemical and physical processes. Just only what you can try to ground those in, and it's self-defeating. That's the whole point of this whole cast tonight.
Yeah, you don't know what the word self-defeating means either. What does it mean?
I don't think you know what it means.
What does it mean?
I can throw it back at you. All these accusations. That's all you have.
I can back mine up, and you can't. Self-defeating would mean that it somehow contains a contradiction. So show me the contradiction.
I just did. You have this involuntary. You have to stay within your lane. You're a materialist.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What am I talking about? Are you serious?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? I'm gonna explain exactly what that means. It means that that you have with your it would be impulsive, and there's nothing with everything that is. You could never have any type of introspection or any type of deliberation because, what did I just say? They are impulsive. They are based on impulses, and things that are impulsive are involuntary. Game over. You got debunked. You got destroyed.
So what is your argument that everything I have is involuntary? That's just gibberish.
The laws of nature itself. You have no autonomy. Show me anything you have that's autonomous that you can get from naturalistic processes such as physical laws, brain chemistry. Show me something there that would, endow you with the ability to deliberate.
The fact that I can deliberate, that I can go
That's,
to a restaurant and
that
I can
requires
choose.
an endowment
What are you
because
What are
it's
you talking about?
involuntary.
What does an endowment mean?
Means
What on earth are you talking about?
it means that you have the ability, an innate gift, to deliberate
Yes,
voluntarily, not
I,
involuntary on a
I do that. I do that
impulse.
I do that every day, all the
Then you're
time.
smuggling in the Christian worldview, something that's
No.
spiritual. Yes,
What do you mean? You think that choosing A over B is spiritual?
absolutely it is.
How so? What's your argument for
Because
that?
because it requires autonomy to have that ability. It's an ability. It's an endowment.
I have autonomy
Where? Where do you get it from?
from me, from the fact that I'm an agent. I'm a person.
You're contingent on nature. You're not a non-contingent being.
Is that autonomy means you're not contingent?
Right. It means that you're autonomous with nature, with physical processes, naturalistic processes, such as chemistry, the laws of chemistry.
What does it mean to be autonomous with brain chemistry?
It means not to be fated. It means to have the ability to choose within oneself, to have...
I can choose within myself. I
It's
can
an
choose.
illusion. It would be the illusion at the best.
Well, that's your claim, but you haven't shown that.
I just did. You have to remain
No, you
consistent with the
didn't. You
laws
just
of nature. You are forced by the laws of nature. I mean, you are a puppet of nature, and you have to stay consistent with that.
That's simply your claim. You're simply repeating your claim. I need an argument
That
for
is an
why
argument.
I
Unless you
am.
say that nature itself is non-physical or spiritual or
It
something like
wasn't.
that.
Nature is spiritual. What
You
on
would have
earth are you
you would have
talking
to
about?
say that to make that claim.
No, I don't have to.
Because you are
What's your
chemically
argument
predetermined. That's why.
What's your argument that I have to
determinist.
say that to make my claim?
You're a determinist. You're like I would say I would use one way's argument
Yeah.
here. You're a chemical predestinarian. You are
Well,
fated to what to think and do. Do you understand the consequences of your belief system?
What does that have to do with my ability
Everything.
to make choices? You don't think I can make choices, even if
It would be
I'm
an
a
illusion
materialist?
without God. I'm saying you're smuggling it in there. That's my point. You're trying to hijack it from Christians.
What is it I'm smuggling in?
Your innate ability to choose right and wrong.
Okay, well let me try it a different way. You would say that you have autonomy, right?
Absolutely.
And that you can make choices.
Yes.
So when you can choose to do A rather than B, correct?
Yes.
And I cannot.
No, I'm saying you can, but you cannot ground it in nature.
Okay, but you can choose to do A rather than B.
Yes.
In virtue of what do you choose to do A rather than B?
The endowment of a conscience.
Well, I have a conscience.
Yeah, good luck demonstrating that physically through laws of nature and chemicals.
Consciousness you don't think I'm conscious?
Not in your own self. No, you're just a product of physical processes, natural processes.
What does that mean?
It means you are a puppet of natural processes, a robot.
But you can.
Robots don't deliberate. That's the point.
Can. Of course they
No,
could.
they're pre-programmed. That means you can't be pre-programmed to deliberate everything. Okay, if you say it's an illusion.
Yes, you can. You can. Yes, you can.
That's not autonomy. No, that just means you're a product of nature. No, it doesn't.
So in virtue of what? When you choose to do A and not
choose,
to do B,
where do you have the justification to use the word choose? That is irrelevant to you.
It's part of the English language. What do you mean? I can't use the word choose?
No,
Why?
You have to stay consistent with your worldview.
Why?
There's no choosing. You're determined to what to do and think, and you have to stay consistent with that.
I'm doing an internal critique, so I get to use your language.
No, then you're trying to smuggle in.
I'm doing it. This is an internal critique, and I'm asking you, in virtue of what do you do A and not B?
Because I have an endowment to deliberate between what's right and
So
wrong.
you choose A rather than B
This is
because
what
you choose
Schuyler
A.
Fiction does. He tries to
So,
smuggle it and appeal to Christianity to argue against Christians. It's not going to work.
so,
It's
so,
self-defeating.
so the reason that you chose to do A rather than B is because you chose to do A rather than B. Is that correct?
Because I have the ability to do that, an innate gift, an endowment.
So you chose to do A rather than B because you chose to do A rather than B. Is that right?
Because God gave me the autonomy to do that, to
Uh,
self-governance, yes.
so it's just God did it. That's all.
Absolutely. And it's
So
really,
so
how could you
what
argue
what
contrary to that?
what was, because it's just gibber. It's just a circular
I just,
argument.
I
It's just
just,
begging the question.
how is that gibberish when I just
Because
completely smashed your worldview and I exposed it? You
you didn't
are,
smash. You didn't smash anything.
yes, I
You didn't.
did.
You didn't.
I showed you, you are
don't even
predetermined to
understand
what and think. You had just, you're not left with the ability to deliberate what's right and
So
wrong. You have no ability to do that.
yes, I do. I do have the ability to
That's
deliberate.
insanity to think that way
No,
without
it is.
God.
No, it's not insanity. That's your claim. You have to prove it.
I just did prove it. You are
No,
predetermined to what to think and do.
so what?
So what? Then how can you deliberate what's right and wrong? It means you have to have
Because
autonomy.
no.
Voluntary. It has to be voluntary. You
Why
don't.
does it have to be? What does that mean, voluntary?
It means that it's not impulsive, based on impulses.
Well, I don't make impulsive choices. I sit and think and
I'm
deliberate.
sure you think you do, but that doesn't mean that you have the justification to.
What do you mean? I don't need a justification.
Of
I can
course
just
you
sit down
do.
and.
Of course you do, because you don't stay consistent with your worldview, a materialist worldview.
What are you talking about? I
What am I
can sit
talking about? I'm
and
talking about being predetermined to what to do and think by natural laws.
I can sit and I can think and I can deliberate.
I'm sure you can, but you can't ground it in
Yes,
anything
you
outside
agree that I
God.
you agree that I can? You agree that I
I'm
can?
saying it's possible, yes, but not under your
Right.
framework, no.
You haven't proved. You just make that claim. Now
No,
I
I
want to
just
get.
explained that.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just make claims. I want to get back to why you do A and not B. And so far, all I've gotten from you is that the reason you do A and not B is because you do A and not B.
Because I have the voluntary will to do so, and which that is
Right,
a gift or endowment
right,
from God.
right. You
Yes.
have you do
So
A rather
please,
than B
please,
because you have. Excuse
no,
me.
that's not what I'm saying.
I'm just
Please
wanting to.
represent what I'm saying. I
Well,
did not
that's what
say what
I'm.
you're saying. That's not what I'm saying.
I just want to repeat it back to you. I do. That's what I want to do.
Well, say it. I mean, say
I
it
do.
properly and say
So,
it
so the way,
accurately.
so what I heard you say is that the reason you do A rather than B is because you have the will to do A rather than B, right?
Yes, I have the gift
Right.
of will to do that.
You just have a gift of will to do the A rather than B,
Yes.
right? That's circular.
No, because we can eliminate, like I just said, I can eliminate your proposition, the naturalistic proposition. We can validate mine through that. So through syllogism.
You can invalidate mine through a syllogism. Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Proposition one: if if physical and natural processes cannot account for deliberation of choices and introspection. So no, okay. Proposition one would be that. Okay, so I'm just it's hard to just make I mean, syllogism is right on the gun. So I'm just trying to do the best I can with this one. So
That's
proposition
fine.
one.
I'm listening. I'm okay. That's fine. I'm just listening.
Um, so naturalistic. I'm just going to call them natural processes can account for deliberation of ethics and moral principle or ethical principles,
So natural processes can account for
No,
deliberation.
this is proposition 1. So I'm going to give you
So
proposition 2.
is that your belief that natural processes can account for deliberation?
No, I'm explaining my syllogism. I'm not done. I have proposition 2 coming.
But this is your first premise, is that natural processes can account for deliberation
Of ethical principles. That is the first
yes.
premise.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, and then premise 2, ethical principles cannot account for deliberation and moral oughts.
So, okay, I want to repeat this back. So premise 1 is natural processes can account for deliberation. And premise 2 is ethical principles cannot account for deliberation, right?
Or no, natural processes cannot account for deliberation of ethical principles and moral oughts.
What?
Or just moral oughts. I mean, that's what I'm using them both: ethical principles and moral oughts.
Yeah. What about them?
That's proposition number 2. We can eliminate proposition A or proposition 1 because natural processes cannot account for moral or ethical ethical principles and deliberation. Therefore, A cannot be the case. Therefore, B. Therefore, God. There you go. I mean, it's that simple.
That wasn't a valid argument.
I don't see how. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Because a sound and valid argument, the conclusion needs to follow inferentially from the premises.
How does it not follow?
Because all you did is just say that the first premise is false. That's all you did. That's all you did.
I explained how it is false, though.
No, that's not an argument. That's just a claim. That's not an argument.
No, it's actually a demonstrable argument.
You haven't the slightest clue what a syllogism is. You don't have the foggiest idea of any of this.
You're just giving your own opinions.
You don't know.
How do you know what you're talking about? Prove it. You know what you're talking. All you're doing is making claims. But I can say the same thing back at you.
I'm refuting your claim because
you haven't refuted anything.
Yes, I have.
Only thing you made is accusations that I'm not doing something. That's all you're good for is telling other people they can't do something.
Well, because you don't understand the things you're talking about, and you don't understand the words and the meanings of them.
That's
you don't know what
claim.
ontology means. You don't know what epistemology means.
You're telling me I can't do something.
You don't know what...
You're just telling people they can't do something. You're not demonstrating it, though.
You need to learn. Go and learn.
I say you need to learn. Yeah, I mean, that's all you're doing is telling people they can't do something. So I think you're obviously intellectually dishonest, so you're gone.